Hi everyone. In the last video, we learned how we can save the authentication token to the local storage so that we can check whether a user is already logged in or not. In this video, I am going to add form validation in our login form. So let's start. Now in this project, you can see I have a new module named common. So I have added this module, and inside this module, I have one more that is called utils. So I am going to store all the utility files inside this module, and it is already there. And when you will download the source code of this video, you will get it in your project. So inside utils, I have input validator, and I'm going to use this input validator to create all the other validators. I also created this validation result where I have this error message that I will display in the UI, and I have one more property to check whether the input is valid or not. And don't worry, because we are not going to use this interface in this video, so I will explain it later. Now let's go back to login view model. Now here, before making the call to this login function, we have to validate the inputs. In this case, our inputs are email and password. So first, I will create email validator and password validator. So inside the auth module, I will create a new package and I will name it validators. Inside validators, I will create email validator. And one thing I forget, I have to add the common utils module to my auth module. So I will open the build.gradle file, and here I will add implementation, projects, common, and utils. Now sync the project. You can see we are getting this error here, and it is not an error actually, it is an issue, a known issue in Android Studio. So don't worry about this error, your application will work. Or if you want to remove this error, you can use an annotation, DSL scope violation. You can see the error is gone. So you have to do the same thing for all the Gradle files if you want to remove the error. But even if you don't add this annotation, your application will work. So let's move ahead. I have added this utils in the dependencies, and now I will create an email validator. In this project, whenever we need to create a validator, we have to use input validator that we created in our utils module. Now we have to implement the members, and inside the email validator we have one function that is validate. Now we can use a regex to validate the input, and this is the regex that I will use to validate email. So here what I can do is I can check if input is empty, then error, else if email pattern dot matches, and then I will pass input and I will check not. So if it does not matches with this pattern, another error, and finally we have success or validated. Now for all the cases, we have to return validation result. So I will put a return here, and here instead of writing this error, I will return validation result. So I will define a string, let's say input or email cannot be empty. The same way I will define validation results for all the cases. Our email validator is ready. The same way I will create a password validator. So our email and password validators are ready. Now what I will do is I will create a validator factory that will provide these validators. So I will define one more file and I will name it validator factory. Now inside this validator factory, I will define validators. So we have private val validators, and I will use a map here. So we have map of type, let's say auth param, and then input validator. I will create an auth param, and for this we can use enum. So we have enum class auth param. Right now we have only two parameters. We have email and password. It is auth param. Now for validators, I will define a map of, and I will define all the validators here. The first one is auth param.email to email validator, and the next one is auth param.password to password validator. Now to get the validator, we can define a function and we can name it get that will return an input validator. Now here we can return validators and we have to give a parameter to this get. We will pass auth param. So we will provide auth param and it will return the validator. If we don't have a validator here, we can throw illegal argument exception. So we have the validator factory ready. Now I will make it a constructor injection. So I will write @inject and then constructor. Now I will inject this factory to my login view model. So open login view model and inject validator factory. You can see we are getting the dependency here. Now with the help of validator factory, we can validate the inputs. So here we will create one more function and it is our inputs valid. It will return a boolean. Now here first we will validate the inputs. So we have only two. The first one is email and the next one is password. So let's start with email. So first I will check if we have any email error. So I will write email error equals to validator factory dot get auth param dot email dot validate, and we have to pass email input. So I will get the email from the UI state. So we have UI state dot value, and I will also get password. Now here pass email, and the same way I will get password error. Now we have email error and password error. If we have at least one error, that means the form is in error state. And to get the form error state as a whole, I can create a val, let's say has error, and then I can create a list of email error and password error, and I can check any is valid dot not. Now this means inside this list, if I have any invalid input, that means I will get has error as true. So what I can do is I can return has error dot not. That means inputs are valid. Now one more thing we need to do is we need to update the input errors to the UI. But first, let's call this function. So before making the call to login, we will check if our input's valid. Then only we will perform login. We can make this function private. And now we have to define two more values to our UI state. So open login UI state, and here we will define email error and password error. Now let's go back to login view model. And here, after doing the validations, we will update the UI. So here we will write UI state dot value equals to UI state dot value dot copy. And we will pass email and password error. So we have updated the UI state. Now let's go to the UI. So we will open this file, that is login.kt. And here to our app text field, we will assign one more property, that is error. So we will simply write UI state dot email error, and we will do the same for password, and that's it. Now let's run the application and check whether the validations are working or not. So this is our login form. Let's click this login button and you can see we are getting the errors. If I input email and password, then the errors are gone. So the validation is working fine. So that is all for this video, friends. I hope you found this video helpful and learned something. In case you have any problem, confusion or question, you can leave your comments below. Thanks for watching. This is Bilal Khan now signing off.